Counter-Strike is a game that has undoubtedly evolved since its humble beginnings. The server browser that was once the only way to play the game is now hidden behind a series of buttons and drop-down menus. The only way that most people want to play the game is 5v5 competitive on the same 3 to 9 maps, depending on how cool you and your friends are. First to 16, 2 halves, plant the bomb on the T side, defuse the bomb or prevent it from being planted on the CT side. But that's not how all people play the game. There exists a form of Counter-Strike within competitive matchmaking, but completely outside of the ecosystem of the game. A remnant of how the game used to be. I'm talking, of course, about the map at the very bottom of the queue page, CS Office. Office is an enigma among modern Counter-Strike maps. Every other map is analyzed carefully and closely by players and Valve alike to prevent any exploitative play. Office manages to slip through the cracks, literally in some cases. Just hidden down there next to Agency and the community maps. The expected queue times for Agency, community maps, hell, even competitively viable maps like Train, Vertigo, or Ancient are much higher than that of Office. Why? Office, from a competitive point of view, is the worst map in the game, by far. How does it survive? The cockroach of the Counter-Strike map queue, it has managed to slip through the purges that removed its comrades, the other competitively unviable hostage maps. Yet somehow, Office, this last remnant of a lost era of Counter-Strike, has remained playable in competitive matchmaking. Office is the most one-sided map in the game. If Office was pushed into the professional map pool, I have absolutely no doubt that as it is, a 13-2 T-side half would be standard. However, to be a hyper-competitive, strategically deep experience is not what Office exists for. People, like me, who love Counter-Strike for the deep, tactical, esports shooter that it is in the modern era, are right to be puzzled by the existence of Office. It is the antithesis of what Counter-Strike is these days, and that is why it must exist. What about Office is bad? Well, first off, this is an overview of the map, and this is the area that sees action in your average round. While all maps do have space that is unused, usually the spawn areas of the two sides, Office has a lot of very cool, detailed areas that are just left unused for a simple reason. The optimal strategy on the T side is to camp in this area, and the CTs have to push to get the hostage. Unlike the diffuse mode, where the dichotomy of the two sites and rotating and statistically almost always having more attackers than defenders on any given spot makes it fair. In this version of the hostage mode, the hostages are in one single area that is easily defendable by the terrorists by just sticking together and camping. It is essentially a one bomb site game. Not to mention the fact that hostage spawns are randomized to be 2 of these 9 options, with some hostage spawns being much more fair for the CTs, and some being much easier to defend, making the map even more T-sided than it normally is. Even with all of this, you need to take into account that the game as a whole is balanced around the CTs defending and the Ts attacking, with each team's respective weapon choices and prices varying depending on which team will have more money. The AK is better than the M4, but this is normally balanced out by the AK player usually having to be the one being aggressive, and the M4 player being able to hold an angle. On Office, this is swapped, making these advantages given to the T side in terms of weapon price and weapon firepower just acting as the nail in the coffin to confirm Office as the most T-sided map in the game. Office serves as a reminder of what Counter-Strike used to exist for. Just a game to have fun with some friends. A lot of Counter-Strike players see the game as this divine masterpiece of competition. A game that exists as a perfect, refined, beautiful cavalcade of 10 people in a server. And it certainly can be that. The recent Antwerp Major has certainly shown that. But that is not all that Counter-Strike can be. If you play competitive and buy a machine gun, a sawed-off shotgun, or an R8 revolver, your teammates will in most cases be unhappy. They see this act, built into the game, as throwing away the victory, simply because these weapons are perceived as inferior to their other options. Office exists to spit in the face of people who act like this. Office is imperfect. Office is a beautifully ugly, perfectly flawed safe haven for people who love to fuck around. I'm not acting like this is all a good thing though. If you're going back in time to the old days of gaming, you're bound to encounter the ugly parts of it, forced out of everywhere else yet still present in the black, shadowy corners of the game. But Office wasn't always the only map that worked like this. In the early days, every map was, quite honestly, garbage. That is why maps that are, by all modern standards, quite average, like Dust 2 or Mirage, stood out from the rest. Even as recently as 4 years ago, Nuke looked like this. And as bad as this was, it was still a lot of fun to just play and mess around on. I'm sad that I will never again be able to stack Toxic with 4 USPS players on an eco round. Vertigo, while a controversial map albeit, just 3 years ago was so much worse. Valve and their team have done wonders to make Vertigo into a fun, competitively viable map. The transformation of Vertigo over the around 16 months they were experimenting with it is actually amazing to see. Their strategy of testing this map out in Wingman to see how the sites play first actually worked really well, and it was really cool to be able to watch as this map was improved upon. I'm honestly disappointed that they haven't even attempted to do this with Ancient, although I am definitely still excited to see how the map will play after the recent changes. The concept of improving maps and making them competitively viable is of course a good and healthy thing for the scene, but I can't help but feel like it removes a lot of what makes these maps unique. When it comes to Office, I would rather it stays the glitchy, messy, just plain out bad map that it is right now, than to have Valve strip it of its charm in the name of competitive viability. I'm really torn, to be honest, because I love what Nuke, Cobblestone, Overpass, and Vertigo were before their changes, but I also can't help but feel like I enjoy them much more now despite this. Sometimes it's hard to take off those rose-colored glasses and see these maps for what they were. In most cases, garbage.
Spot them coming out of the street door as well. He's here. He sees them down there. Straight headshot. They have no idea. Smith's looking confused and dazed, and it's going to be a follow-up headshot on a Meister. You've got to be kidding me. Takes down Hiroshima as well.
Now, let's take a quick break from our regularly scheduled programming to take a look at a few unruly specimens that I spotted in just one single game of Office matchmaking. Here we have this guy. I'm gonna call him Swag. Swag is an interesting individual, because he clearly doesn't really care about the game. Take this round for instance, round 11. He has $16,000. What will he buy? Well, at the start of the round, the answer is nothing. After a while though, he takes his hands off of his penis and purchases full armor, a deagle, a Molotov, and a high explosive grenade. The only tools a true gamer needs to win. We did win that round, by the way, definitely because of this insane play and not because of T-Schnepp getting over a quarter of his kills for the entire game in that single round. Another interesting character I found was our top frag, Chile. What's interesting about him is I believe that he is a rare specimen known as the Office Tryhard. After a little while, he started accusing everyone on his team of throwing. Some rightfully, once it was right after Swag failed a 1v1 because he refused to do anything but no-scope with the op, but mostly just after random mistakes. What was really funny about this is, a little while in, Swag started rooting him on, like agreeing with him, saying like, yeah man, our team is throwing, this sucks. It's like, dude, you are literally the guy. Lastly, I have the incredible bottom fragging duo of T-Schnepp and Don. To be honest, I don't really like making fun of bottom fraggers because we were all there at one point, but seeing as these two are both low level in game, I have to assume that they just selected all the maps when queuing and got lucky enough, or unlucky enough depending on how you see it, to get matched into a game of Office. We lost the game 12-16. I do my best to paint the subject matter of my videos as a grand stroke of genius and fate, but with Office it's quite tough. It is just a fun bad map. Just like it's fun to watch The Room, it's fun to play Office. That's really it. It's a bad map, but it's a good bad map. It would really be a travesty if Valve removed Office the same way they removed Aztec, Dust, or my personal favorite bad map, Assault. These maps exist, or existed in the case of the latter, as time capsules of the game and of map design. Now we have clip brushes over everything, Valve pouring hours into making sure every map is exploit-free and cheat-proof, and players working as hard as they can to find exploits on these maps regardless. It's almost surreal to go back in time and realize that this was once a map playable in competitive matchmaking. So, if you're feeling a bit bored of the current stagnation of CS, grab some friends, switch out the deagle for the revolver, and queue up a game of Office. Thank you. And hey, if you made it this far, you probably liked the video. If you want more like this, please scroll down and subscribe to my channel, and leave a like and a comment while you're at it to keep the algorithm overlord happy. Thanks.